Here we go. This is it. This is our last written purpose. After this point, we're done with written purposes. There are a few more in the book, but I tend to skip them because you never use them. It's process. I love process. It's fun. Okay, let me back up on that. It's not that it's fun in and of itself, like in terms of I don't love writing a process essay. I have fun writing a cause-effect essay. But process is fun if you're just in that right state of mind where your sense of humor is just a little off. Then it's fun. For example, my cat is bugging me today. He's a very codependent little guy, and I forgot to close the door to my office when I started recording these videos. So he's in here periodically, headbutting my monitor, headbutting me. He started trying to lick my power supply a little bit ago. That was really weird. And he's walking around meowing at me. And I thought to myself, how would I skin a cat? I'm not actually going to do it. I love this little guy. But theoretically, how would I skin a cat? And then I started thinking a little bit further about it. And I started thinking, what about the process? You always hear that. When I was a little kid, some old lady said there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I started thinking, well, what if I wrote a process essay about the myriad of ways to skin a cat? Well, how would I construct that? Maybe my thesis statement would be, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There truly is more than one way to skin a cat. Here's all the ways to do it. And then I provide a few exemplification on how to do it. Maybe my introduction would be about how sometimes this little guy just annoys the hell out of me. He annoys my wife more, but still, you get the idea. So, a process essay explains how to do something or how it occurs. For example, if I were to write a process essay about global warming, maybe I would write a process essay about the history of how it had occurred. It would be blended with cause-effect, obviously. It prevents a sequence of steps and shows how these steps might lead to a particular result. Like a narrative, it also presents the events chronologically. The difference between the two is that process explains a series of events that produces the same outcome whenever it is duplicated. In How to Skin a Cat, you're always going to end up with a skinned cat. Clarity is always important. Whether your readers will perform the sequence or they simply need to understand it, your essay has to make it clear what the exact ordering is, as well as their relationships to one another. Why do I have to, sharpen the knife before I lay the cat down? Now I'm starting to feel bad. He's looking at me. He's laying on my computer. Never mind. I don't feel bad. Instructions. This is one type of process writing. It's a very boring type of process writing, but it is a type of process writing. Recipes, handouts about using databases, operating manuals for your computer. Anybody who's built one recently, maybe you got an operating manual for your hard drive, or more likely you probably got one for your video card. They're all written as instructions, and instructions use the present tense and they use an imperative mode. Do this, go there. Disconnect the system, check the electrical source, sharpen the knife, skin the cat. I love you, buddy. You naughty kitty. He looked at me. Now, a process explanation. The purpose for it is not to perform the process, and this is why it's slightly different than a process essay proper. It's rather to help them understand how it's carried out, why it's important. Got a couple of articles I tend to use about dumpsters and garbage and waste management. Maybe if I were to write a process essay about waste management, I would talk about why the garbage man is so important. Why without the garbage man, the city would fall apart. Process may use the first person. It can also use the third, the present, or the past tense. It does not require second person or imperative mood. That is, you should do this or go do that kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily require it. Process is also one of those areas where you can employ the first person, breaking, of course, that general rule of never using the first person in academic writing. You can. Just be careful with it because it's a loaded weapon at that point. So, transitions. Again, on page 43, you have a whole list of transitions, but there are some that are specific to process, which is first do this, second do this. Meanwhile, while this is cooking, go do that. After you finish cooking the lemon meringue, do this. Next, go do that. Then do this. At the same time as the cat is meowing, go stick your head in the sink and cry because he just won't shut up. Love you, buddy. He looked at me again. When you have finished, and finally. There are methods to structure a process essay on 266 and 267. Again, you always need an introduction with a thesis. You need to have a body, of course, and then a conclusion. There's methods on editing on pages 267 and 270, questions that you need to make sure to ask with a process essay. So those of you who choose to employ process, when we get to the peer review process, make sure that you ask people those questions. And then there's a student sample on page 270. Student sample is about the search. It's about searching for an apartment. It's the process of how to search for an apartment. And then we have grammar and context. It's about avoiding unnecessary shifts between verb tense or person, first to second person, that sort of thing. And then we have a visual analysis on page 280. Let's go see what that is. I'm curious. Oh, it's how to change a flat tire. That's interesting. I challenge you to use process. Not because I think it's difficult, but because I think if you use it right, it can be fun. For example, I mean it completely facetiously how to skin a cat. I'm not going to do that. I love my little boy. He's cute. Not as cute as he could be, but he's cute. Not as cute as he used to be. Love you, buddy. He looked at me again. He's got green eyes. Anyway, you can be fun. It can be fun. It can be serious. It can be fun. Some of the essays that are in the process chapter, Malcolm X is my first conch, and it's a really great read. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't, but it's out of the autobiography of Malcolm X, and the entire chapter is about the first time he conked his hair. And if you don't know what a conch is, look it up. It's interesting. Because the purpose of that essay that he wrote, I guess the chapter out of his book, is not necessarily just to explain the process of what a conch is, how to make a conch, but also a lot of the underlying tensions that go into why you would do this to yourself. It involves lye and potatoes. You can also be fun. If you go back and think about your blog, for those of you who are interested in trying out that extra credit, maybe try the process of something strange, the process of something fun, the process of something unique, something you do which is interesting, and you can talk about the process of it and why it's important. You can also talk about some of those more unsavory things that make the world work. I love thinking about the garbage man. I really do, because I could never do it in a million years. But the garbage man is vital. The process of taking out the garbage, why is it important? What do they go through every day, and why is it an important job? It's interesting. And of course, there's more than one way to skin a cat.